What's good, Wizards fans? Welcome to the Locked On Wizards podcast. It's your host, the real Ed Oliver and Brandon Scott. The Washington Wizards have made a hire, Michael Winger from the Clippers, as president of Monumental Basketball. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So if you have not heard, the Washington Wizards, per Adrian Wojnarowski, have hired a former Los Angeles Clippers general manager Michael Winger. He has agreed to become the president of Monumental Basketball, which delivers him full leadership of the Washington Wizards. He will also oversee the WNBA, the team, the Mystics, and the G League Go-Go. So they finally made a hire. He is not the general manager, but he will be the president of basketball operations, which is a big title upgrade for him, probably upgrading salary as well, and just more autonomy and overseeing basketball operations for sure. So, Brandon, what are your first initial thoughts about the hire? This is actually an outside hire here. What are your first thoughts with hiring Michael Winger?
Yes, sir. This is what I'm talking about. This is a good move, man. Man, great move. Outside hire. I mean, his pedigree. If you look at the guys he learned under, Sam Presti, Danny Ferry. I mean, the list goes on, man. He knows what he's doing. I mean, looking at his track record, I'm very excited, very happy. Our prayers were answered. Thank you, Lord, because this is a good move, man. I mean, this is a step in the right direction. I mean, look, let me get this out the way. Ted Leon says, I've been hard on you, called you a cornball a few times. Look, man, my bad, because I'm telling you, today you get my respect, man, because this is a big move. This is a really good move because this is the move I wanted. Because, and especially if you look at the fact that he gave him that much control and he oversees the whole basketball operation, we can still go get a good quality GM. That is an overhaul of the front office that we need. That's bringing in competent leadership to the front office, guys who know how to draft, know how to trade, know how to evaluate players. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. If we can go out and get that GM and we can overhaul the scouting department, this front office is what we need. And this is a step in the right direction. Now, the fact that the telling us is willing to give him full autonomy and he is cool with a rebuild, let's go. Let's go. Because my firm belief is this team needs to rebuild, start over, start young, build this team up like we did before. Look, John Wall, we drafted John Wall and we steadily added pieces to the draft. And then when it was time to add those pieces to start competing and contending, the Markieff Morrises, the Gortats, you make those trades. But, Bill drafted here. John wants to go build through the draft and then add those pieces when it need. Because like you said, that, with Ted Leon says asking for a 5-year plan, I'm not even mad at that because to me, that's competency and ownership. That's taking responsibility. That's saying, look, we need to have a plan. A 5-year plan, that's what I'm talking about. Instead of just, for the next 5 to 10 years, we're just going to try to run it back and go to playing. No, this shows that Ted Leon sees the writing on the wall. He's listening to the fan base and he's listening to the league that's saying, look, you need to build from the top down, leadership, front office. This is what I'm very excited because like I said, his track record, man, speaks for itself. And we can still go out there and get a GM that adds more experience, that adds more pedigree to the front office. I mean, this is a great move, and this is a move that we needed for a long time. And look, my hat goes off to the ownership. This was a good move. Took a little bit, but this is a good move and a good step in the right direction for the Washington Wizards.
Yeah, it's an awesome staff. They hired a good basketball mind, and Michael Winger, a guy who's been around winning. He has been around winning with Cleveland under Danny Ferry, and then he's been around winning in OKC with Sam Presti when they had KD, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, and then he moved on to the Clippers, and they've been to a Western Conference Finals. You can say what they want. You can say what you want about Paul George and Kawhi Leonard with injuries, but they've done something the Wizards haven't been able to do since 1978, 1979, which is make it past the second round. And Michael Winger's been a part of that. So And he's been part of a rebuild or a retool as well. He had to trade Blake Griffin for Tobias Harris and a couple of picks, and they built around that. He took advantage of their first round picks and drafted SGA. So, and they're not done yet. He still has to hire a GM. Ava Wallace reported that he is going to be fully a part of hiring a GM. We're going to talk about the rebuild part in a couple minutes, but yeah, the Athletic article said that he's going to have full power to actually rebuild this team if he wants to, which is just, it's mind blowing. It's mind blowing that Ted would actually do that. And who knows what's going to happen. I don't think he's going to move on from West, but we'll see what he does in the next couple of weeks, next couple of weeks or months. But I think it's an awesome hire. I mean, this guy is a good basketball mind. A lot of people say that he's good with the salary cap as well. The salary cap, where the Wizards are at right now. So I'm intrigued by this. I think it's a heck of a hire. They got a guy with a good track record that can come in, and I think he can make changes. And they're really giving him full autonomy. He's got to look over the Mystics as well. He's got to look over the Capital City Go-Go. So I have nothing but good things to say about this, man. I think Ted, he did his due diligence, and the clock was ticking for sure, and he finally made the hire. So I did want to get into some of his moves, what we liked and what we didn't like about his moves. Of course, we talked about the SGA draft pick. That was a good draft pick. And then Blake Griffin, he traded him. So, what were your thoughts about some of the moves that he's made as a LA Clipper GM? And he was under Frank Lawrence, who was their operational director of basketball operations as well. He did pick up Russell Westbrook. He traded for Norman Powell, brought in Robert Covington. He did draft SGA. Traded Blake Griffin for a first round pick and Tobias Harris, and he traded Tobias Harris to the Sixers. They drafted SGA. They were able to trade him for Paul George, and they gave up 5 first round picks, but they went all in. They tried to buy in and go big, which I would have did the same thing, trading SGA for Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, especially when Kawhi Leonard picks you. You were a free agent destination. Kawhi Leonard picked you, so he was a big part in bringing in Kawhi Leonard as well. And them going all in. Then he had to fire Doc Rivers, which is a big move there. Brought in Tyronn Lue. So he's made some good moves, and then he drafted Terrence Mann, a late second round or early second round pick, late first round pick. So he's made a good move in finding guys, finding talent. Now, the bad thing in his draft, he did draft Jerome Robinson, the former Wizard, who's not in the NBA any longer. That didn't work out. He was in the first round, a lottery pick. So he's had some hits and some misses, but more times than not, he certainly had some hits. So showing that he traded Blake Griffin shows that, he's familiar with coming into a situation where the star player may be on the tail end of his career, or, you see the direction of the team and it's just not really going into a future where you see a whole bunch of winning or getting past the second round.
Well, you hit the nail on the head. He made risky moves that, if you don't hit on those moves, they're unpopular moves and they get you fired. But you have to make those risky moves. And that's why I like his track record, man, because he made moves that were necessary. Look, Blake Griffin, I like Blake Griffin's game. I follow him ever since he was Oklahoma, but he's not a guy you can build around. He's a complimentary piece, and it showed that in LA. So moving him to Detroit, getting him off the books, great move. He made firing Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers has a name in the NBA. He's a guy that's been in the NBA for a while. So if you fire a guy with that pedigree, look, you better have a good reason, or you better have a really good replacement coming in, because if you don't hit that next year, you can lose your job. He made moves that are risky but are necessary moves, and that's what you haven't seen in DC. In DC, it's okay to be loyal, right? But we tend to be loyal to a fault, where we hold on to a guy, or we overpay for a guy, or we give a guy these amenities in his contract that obviously he's not on the tier to have, and it gets us in trouble. And we've been guilty for that for a long time, man. We're too loyal. There's time to cut bait. There's time to get value, especially with the young guys. Really, we could have got more. We acted too fast. Are we going to move Denny Williams' time if we don't re-sign him? Those are questions. And I think that is the biggest key proponent to him, is that he's willing to make these moves that are necessary and maybe risky, but are necessary moves. And that's what you need, because I'm trying to tell you, how did Bob Myers get to the point where he was? Making risky moves, and hitting on them. That's the thing about being a GM, man. You're not going to hit all the time, whether through the draft or free agency. Not every big name free agent is going to come in here and get you a championship. If you look at, you said earlier, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, any GM makes that move, because Number one, you had Kawhi. Kawhi made it known he wanted another guy. Paul George is from LA. He made it happen. 4 first rounders. Yeah, I mean, you make a move for Paul George, especially when you have a Kawhi Leonard. And we both said it, man, that they were just injuries is what derailed the Clippers, man. There's injuries because the talent is wow. But you hit the nail on the head. He knows how to navigate around the cap space. He knows how to build a team where you may not have the amount of picks that you should or need. No, this is such a home run move. It's ridiculous, man. I'm happy because this was my target. This was my target, especially giving him full autonomy. Look, here's the thing. I mean, I'm ready for a full rebuild, but I want to make this known to Wiz fans right now. You get what you wish for, man. Because rebuilds, look, we're not going to be competitive for the next 2 to 3. So, you have to be patient enough to let us evaluate and really work. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you really want to, to really work on a young team, you have to be there for the bad times. And that's when I want everybody to know, man. Like, we get a rebuild. Look, you get what you work for. You got to go through that rebuild. You have to be patient enough to let these guys develop and really let him do his job because rebuilds take a while, man. And, again, Ted Leonsis has impressed me with the 5-year plan because that's telling me that you're holding not only new leadership accountable, you're holding yourself accountable. So look, I'm very impressed with this move, not only for who we got, but who made the choice. So I'm very impressed and happy today, man.
Right. Yeah. So the 5-year plan is definitely interesting as well. They're saying that Ted wants him to write up a 5-year plan. I don't know. It's definitely different that he didn't, because the article says that he wants Michael Winger to present to him a 5-year plan. So it's interesting if he didn't already do the 5-year plan and then present it to Ted. I would think that would be something in the interview process. But no, I'm excited for Michael Winger too. I mean, everywhere he's been a winner, showing a good track record as well. He's made some good moves. Traded for Zubac from the Lakers. I think he's a good player. Was traded for or signed Reggie Jackson. I thought he played well for the Clippers as well. Norman Powell was a good pickup. Russell Westbrook looked better under the Clippers as well. So he's had some guys come in and revive their careers for sure. The Morris twin, he looked better with the Clippers as well. He did sign John Wall, and it didn't work out there. John Wall's bought out, so but he bought up Eric Gordon. Eric Gordon played well for them. And we talked about him moving on from Luke Kennard. That was a big contract they gave him. He was able to move on from Luke Kennard. So yeah, just injuries just got in the way of his time with the Clippers. I mean, that's a real Tommy Shepard. You would use injuries as an excuse, but the Clippers really did have a legitimate excuse. Paul George is not being available, Kawhi Leonard just being out so much, and they actually beat the Suns. We talked about this before too. But the next game, Kawhi Leonard sits out the next 3 or 4 games. They end up losing to the Suns with Kevin Durant. So, but we're going to get to more about the hiring of Michael Winger. But we're going to get to a couple of small parts of Josh Robbins' article from The Athletic that gave some more information about the hiring of Michael Winger and what he's able to do now. But before we do get into that, today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Buying tickets to your favorite events should not be stressful, just like the Nats or the Orioles. The Orioles are playing really good baseball right now, so it shouldn't be stressful to buy tickets to that. Or the Mystics. The Mystics, they've been playing well. They won the championship not too long ago, so get some Mystics tickets as well using the app Gametime. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Flash deals and last-minute tickets, easy to find and buy tickets on the Gametime app for every kind of event in your area. Lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, etc. Forget planning months in advance. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. And you get images of your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, so I would have been fine if they just hired him as the regular GM, but I like this title for him too. So he still has to find a GM. So it could be guys like Trajan Langdon, or still could be somebody like Milton Newton. So I just want to pull up the article from Josh Robbins, and we both can react to that. So quote from the article, he says, Ted Leonsis plans to give, and we are live, by the way. We're going to read some comments after this segment. So quote from the article says, Ted Leonsis plans to give Michael Winger wide latitude to expand and revamp the Wizards' infrastructure and potentially launch a full rebuild. I had to stutter because I heard that. Full rebuild of the roster, said league sources who were granted anonymity because Winger's hiring though agreed to in principle has not been made official yet. According to a league source, Winger will have full authority over constructing and perhaps deconstructing the Wizards roster and the front offices within Monumental Basketball. Winger will be required to submit a 5-year plan to Leonsis for approval, then update the plan after each year. Most importantly, Leonsis would not be against a rebuild if that's the route Winger wants to take, a league source said. So what's your thoughts on that, on Ted's part saying that he would not be against a full rebuild?
Again, those are sweet words in my head, man. I mean, like this morning, I almost choked up on my coffee, man, because I heard, I read it. I said, full rebuild. What? I mean, we have options now. I mean, a full rebuild, you still got to be smart how you get into that rebuild. You still got to be methodical and strategic how you get into that full rebuild. And and here's the thing, they might not even go for a full rebuild. They may go for a retool, which is, maybe you bring back KP, maybe you sign in trade coups, try to get a point guard, try to get another first round pick, try to hit a couple guys in this draft. Retool wouldn't be a bad idea, but a full rebuild, like I said, a full rebuild, I think would be a good thing for this franchise to start a new era, to, develop a young core and then add the pieces necessary, when you need to. But again, this fan base has to be ready to be patient, man, because rebuild, it can take time. And if it's done right, but here's the thing, this is why I don't think it's going to take time, because when you have a competent front office, then, especially when you know how to evaluate, rebuilds, it could be quick, especially we hit on 1 or 2 picks in this draft. So we have options, man. But like I said about Ted, man, he looked at the writing on the wall. The thing is, you have to rebuild, or you have to build the team right. You have to. And there's been many examples in this league, especially in the Eastern Conference. If you look at, Cleveland, you're looking at Golden State. Look, Golden State's where they are because they built through the draft. And they added those pieces necessary when they had to. Clay, Steph, all of them were drafted. Especially Draymond was a second-round pick. So if you look at the fact that our last second-round pick is average 1 point, and I think the Spanish league is something. So, you got to get the most out of your draft picks. Yeah, this is oh, Lord. Yeah, I know. So you have to really hit through the draft, man. Especially you have to really take second-rounders and get value out of them. So competent leadership in the front office, I can't say it enough, man. And the fact that he's given him the autonomy to do whatever he wants to do or whatever he seems fit for this franchise is sweet news in my ear. But my thing is this, I don't see a full rebuild. I see a retool, because I do think that you have a foundation here. I'm not now, obviously, Bradley Beal being the guy long term is definitely going to be a question going into the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely going to be a question, because if you go through a rebuild, then Brad's not going to stay through a rebuild. I mean, maybe because he got his bag, but as far as hitting that check, checking that box of winning a championship, 3 to 5 year rebuild, it ain't happening here. So you could start to see a lot of rumors, and you're already seeing all these mock trades online about Bradley Beal, but you could see us move Bradley Beal, especially if this new general manager and our new president of basketball operations wants to go for it. So there's options here, man. Sign and trade coups, just options with KP, but we got to be smart. We got to make the right moves. So, overall, man, I'm very, very happy because, again, full autonomy. Ted Leonsis is saying, look, do your thing. He is given, leeway. And that's what we've been asking for a long time, is give the front office leeway to make those necessary moves when you need to make them. So now, I'm very happy, man. I'm very happy. This is a step in the right direction, man.
Yeah. So Ted's getting a change of heart, man. I think he's finally realizing, that you have to do something different to build a team. You can't just try to play on the margins and stick with the solid 3 and just try to, sign, mid-level free agents and make marginal trades here and there. So you just got to pick a direction. You either go all the way in or rebuild and retool and just, go with some young guys and let's develop. So, and Michael Winger, he's found a way to try to build around guys that he's paying a lot of money. He had to pay Kawhi Leonard a good amount of money, nice contract, Paul George, a nice contract, but he had to find contracts that could fit around, like, getting Batum on a good deal, Russell Westbrook going to buy out, Norman Powell on a good deal, so making trades to help those guys out to, getting in a championship mode. I thought even getting Montrezl Harrell to the Clippers, he was the 6th man of the year with the Clippers. Lou Williams was good for the Clippers as well, even though they ended up underachieving. I still thought he did a good job building a roster around those guys. They had enough talent to compete for a championship for sure. They just underachieved. But yeah, I mean, it's huge with a change of heart for Ted to do this. You know, he knows for this place, for him to get somebody of a high caliber, he had to give them full autonomy. Like, even if we got Bob Myers, which I knew we weren't, Bob Myers is not going to come here. Ted realized that if he really wants to get a real talent and a real GM that doesn't have any ties here, then you have to give them full power and full autonomy, because nobody's going to come here and want to be fully controlled or not have any say at all. You know, Tommy Shepard was probably fine with that because he's been working with Ted Leonsis forever. So, you know, and under Ernie Grunfeld. So he probably had no problem with that at all. But he knew that he had to give Michael Winger full autonomy over every decision to make this place attractive, you know, to even give somebody to even sign up for the job. So, like I said, Ava Wallace, she said that he still has to hire a GM at this point. A lot of power, a big, powerful role that Winger is stepping into as well. He'll be deciding the broad direction of the team, and everything, including a full roster overhaul, is on the table as well. So we'll see. Personally, I don't think that he's going to start off with a rebuild. That's just my gut feeling, but you just never know. He's got to make his decision with KP and Kuz. You got to make a decision with, of course, the guys on the roster, the young guys. What do you do with Denny? What do you do with Johnny? What do you do with Corey? Same thing with Wes. Is Wes's job back on the chopping block, or is there a debate? Is he thinking about that too? You know, so how much is full control? I want to see what Michael Winger definitely does to start off.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be interesting where they go, man. But I mean, there's a few factors that can kind of point out why they wouldn't do a full rebuild and maybe a retool. Because I mean, they just added those luxury courtside suites, man. And you're not look, you're trying to fill those up with a rebuild. You're gonna have, man, it's gonna be hard. You know, I mean, I think that you have pieces here that you could use towards a retool. Like, I'm not saying that, you know, this team is trash by no means, but are we, you know, we're in a gray area. You know, we're too bad to really get those top 5 picks, but then we're too good. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, I think it's gonna be a retool, man. I really do. But I'm sitting easy now because you have competency in front office. That's my biggest thing is you have you have competency in the front office, man. We haven't always had that. You have a guy who comes from Pedigree. Sam Presti, man, is one of those iconic GMs out there that knows what he's doing. Danny Ferry, the list goes on. You know, the moves he made in LA. You know, those are good moves if you look at the cap situation with the Clippers. Those are outstanding moves because, you know, they haven't had first rounders in LA between them and the Lakers for the last 30 years.
Right.
So, because they trade them every year. So, you know, I love it, man. I love this move. But looking at it, you know, there's, like I said, he's got to make the right decisions, though, because you have a lot of decisions to make going forward. Number one, Wes Unseld. You know, Wes is coaching for his job because you best believe, man, if they start slow, look, Wes might be up out of there because, look, he has no link. You know, the new president of basketball operations, there's no link between them. So, you know, I mean, you can play this whole Wes Unseld's dads, but look, if you ain't winning, I don't care what your last name is, man, you're going to get fired. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, Wes is coaching for his job. Bradley Beal, I'm trying to tell you, he has value. And I don't think he's untradeable. I think that the right situation, you know, I think that you may see Bradley Beal. I'm 50-50, honestly, in predicting that because I think there's a chance you can move Bradley Beal because I don't see him staying during rebuild, man. You know, in this stage of his career, he wants to win a chip. So, you know, 3 to 5 years, he's not waiting for all that. So you could move him. Kuz, you know, we go through a rebuild, retool. Kuz want to stay? No, I don't think so. Side and trade. You know, KP, I'm 50-50. So he's got a lot of options. But again, you hit the nail on the head earlier. What does he do with his young core? Does he see the value in his young core that Tommy did? And that's the big question too, because Denny, he's on a contract year. You know, Johnny Davis, you know, he had a rough year, man, but there's some upside to him, enough to you could throw him into a trade. You know, what do you do with the expiring contracts in Monte Morris and Delon Wright? You know, does he see the same value in Gafford that Tommy did? So there's a lot of questions, man, because you know, with Gaff going to an extension, you know, what is his vision in the modern day center? You know, does he want Gaff? A lot of questions going forward. You could see a very different roster going into the next season. But that's the thing, man. I'm excited and not kind of like, oh, because you got good leadership now. So let's go get that GM. Let's go get this. Let's work on the scouting department and let's go. Let's get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and does he bring in a whole different scouting department? Does he bring in a whole new developing department as well? You know, who does he like in the draft? Who does he still? Is he fond of Monte Morris? Does he want to find a way to move Monte Morris?
Yeah,
so those are some big moves. Kyle Kuzma, we talked about him a bunch of times. What does he want to do with Kuz? And yeah, I mean, Brad may hear some things that he may not like the new vision from Michael Winger. So he may be like, hey, I'm ready to move on. There's a whole new staff, new people. So I think we should just move on. But who knows? Brad may like it and may want to stay. So there's a lot of things up in the air right now. But we're going to get some comments here. There's a lot of happy people, a lot of people celebrating in the comments for sure. So before we do get to that, we have a quick word from Brandon.
I was going to say real quick, I'm going to tell Brad, no, you don't like it. You don't like it, man. Today's episode is brought to you by Birddogs, man. I'm a big fan of Birddogs, man. I got me a couple pair of shorts from Birddogs, man. And I'm telling you, there's 3 main areas that I'm talking about when it comes to Birddogs, man. Fit, they look better, and they feel good, man. I'm trying to tell you, they're very, very comfortable. Comfort, they're stretchy fabric, man. It makes you look great, and they're comfier than most other shorts and pants that I own personally. And versatility, they give me the freedom to wear one pair of shorts and pants on the golf course to a meeting, a date with my wife, or hanging out with friends. So, very, very comfortable. I'm a huge fan of Birddogs, man. I can't stress enough how comfortable they are. And there's a lot of celebrities that are actually wearing them. Comedian Bert Kreischer, so, he wears them. Dave Portnoy that does Barstool Sports. So it's definitely getting a lot of credibility around. But go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA, and when you enter promo code LockedOnNBA, they'll throw in free custom Birddogs Jelly style tumbler for every order. I got one, E got one, man. They're nice. They keep it warm or cool. So I can't recommend them enough. Birddog, definitely go to the website. And again, promo code birddog.com/LockedOnNBA.
Yes, sir. So we're going to get to some comments here, and we'll wrap it up. I know we're doing it early in the day. It's about 11:25, 11:30. We usually do it at night, but we just wanted to get it in early because, we weren't able to record last night. So we just want to thank you guys. There's 82 people in the chat. So I know you guys are listening probably during your lunch break or at work right now. So we appreciate you guys for working hard and listening in.
Yes, sir.
A Thursday morning right now. So we appreciate that. Anthony Smith, he says, darn. That's the first comment started off. Jenka 119 says 24 hours late. Swaggy says classic whiz move, and that say a classic whiz. I disagree with that because a classic whiz move would be promoting somebody within. Now Troy Halliburton did say that it possibly could be Brett Greenberg as the new GM, so we still don't know who the GM is. Maybe Michael Winger might promote somebody from within. I'd rather him not do that, like John Thompson III. I do respect John Thompson III with Georgetown. I thought he was a solid coach, but it didn't work out the last couple of years. Getting upset a couple of times in the first and second round, but I'd rather them still go outside with the general manager position. So I disagree with Swaggy that this is a classic whiz move because typically it would be promoting somebody from within like they did with Tommy Shepard.
Oh yeah, classic whiz move. My bad, man. I mean, classic whiz move would probably bring in a guy from a concession stand to be a general manager. So they're definitely making progress.
Right. Andre says, "Yo, my brethren," and then Swaggy says, "What does this mean?" So, like we said before, he's not the general manager. He's the president of basketball operations. So he's been given full leadership. So he's going to be overseeing the Mystics, the Go-Go, and the Wizards at the same time. So he's going to have the final say. He's not the general manager, but the GM will come to him. So if he hires Trajan Langdon will come to him for approval. But of course, he'll be head of scouting and everything else. Scouting, trade, salary cap. He's going to be the head honcho overlooking and overseeing everything. But he's not the general manager. So that's what it means. Basketball operations. He's going to be that. That is his title.
Well, I mean, that's a good move, man, because if you look at what titles did Tommy hold? Both of them. So you need more than one perspective and voice in the front office. When you got one guy making all the moves, you have nobody who's going to check anybody and say, hey, hold on, man. We may need to think about that. That's the thing that I like about this move is that it's like a democracy. You have more than one voice in there that can either, can dictate. So, yeah, great comment, man, because again, Tommy had both positions, man, and whatever he said went, and that was the problem. So,
right. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good move. Sometimes you can have too many cooks in the kitchen, but I think it's a good move because he's shown that he's been able to be a good leader in the front office. So I like I said, if he was hired as the regular old general manager, I would have been fine with that. I really would have been. And Uptown Dre says, who is Michael Winger? He's a guy. He was with Cleveland. He's won with Cleveland. Just pulling up his resume right here. Got it up. Got to look through my notes here, but yeah, basically he won two. He had two conference finals appearances with the Cleveland Cavaliers, one NBA Finals appearance with the Cavs, four conference finals appearances with OKC, one NBA Finals appearance with OKC as well. The Clippers made their first conference finals ever under Michael Winger and Lawrence Frank. He did. He made the PG and Kawhi. He made the PG trade, the Paul George trade, brought in Kawhi as a free agent. So he won everywhere he's gone. He drafted SGA, which is huge. SGA was the 13th pick of the draft, if I'm not mistaken. You know how much we've struggled to hit outside of the third pick of the draft. Drafted Terrence Mann, which is a good draft as well. Like I said, brought in Zubac, who's developed into a good center. Reggie Jackson had a renaissance career with the Clippers as well. Eric Gordon. Thought that was a good move. So he's made some good moves with the Clippers. Marcus Morris looked good with the Clippers that one season. Like I said, Montrezl Harrell won the sixth man of the year. Lou Williams had a good season with the Clippers too. They just underachieved because of injuries. He fired Doc Rivers as well. So, I mean, you know, that guy's a proven winner. Doc Rivers has won a championship. He had no problem firing Doc Rivers. Hired Tyronn Lue, who was a winner. So he goes big game hunting with coaches. He just doesn't settle for nepotism or, you know, family members, stuff like that with the organization. So we'll see what he does with Wes Unseld Jr. But that's the resume. That's just a quick resume for Michael Winger. Hopefully he is a winner with the Wizards. So and like I said before, he traded Blake Griffin too, which you can kind of compare to Bradley Beal because Blake Griffin was a good player, but just not a number one on the championship team. Same thing with Bradley Beal. Great player, but not a number one on the championship team.
Yeah, but the only thing is Bill got that no trade clause.
That is true. That is true.
You know, that's the kicker, man. But I mean, like you said, his track record speaks for itself, man. This is the guy that you want as president of basketball operations, somebody who knows how to navigate around the cap and just all the reasons we said before. You know, he brings competency in the front office that we desperately need.
Right.
Good Lord.
Yeah, and he's gonna give the 5-year plan. It is intriguing to me. You know, I thought that's something that they would do before the hiring process or during the interview, but he's gonna roll out a 5-year plan, and then each year he's gonna check off a box. So it sounds like some homework assignment a little bit. But Sheldon T says rebuild, and rebuilds don't have to take long in the NBA. Yeah, we've seen some teams rebuild pretty quickly. You look at the Cavs; they drafted Garland. They traded for Jared Allen. They drafted Evan Mobley. Now look at the picks, how high they were. Evan Mobley was a top 5 pick. Garland, I got to see where he was picked, but I know he was a lottery pick at least. So you had 2 lottery picks. Evan Mobley hit, Garland hit. They're darn good players. Then you traded for Jared Allen. So that's a rebuild. You can look at that they rebuilt pretty quickly. You look at the Hawks. They were bad for a couple of years after they traded Corver and Horford and DeMarre Carroll and just Jeff T. They blew that team up, but they went to the Eastern Conference Finals with Trae Young way before the Wizards had made it near the Eastern Conference Finals. So you see some teams that have been able to rebuild pretty quickly, and that's where we're helping with the Wizards. Now, if they just decide to still go all in with a solid 3, can Michael Winger do the best to get talent around this team and make this roster a playoff team?
Yeah, like you said, that's key, man, is utilizing what you have right now and moving the right pieces. I think Kyle Kuzma at this point is a sign and trade candidate. I don't see him coming back, to be honest with you. If anybody comes back, KP. I think KP will sign here long term, but Kuz and maybe even Brad. I mean, like I said, Brad, you're gonna start to hear Brad's name a lot now because he's got value. There are teams, let's not get it twisted. There are teams out there that want Bradley Beal. It's just, what do we say, that Bradley Beal's a good 2, 3 on the championship team, not a 1. But so somebody's gonna want to make a run and pick up Bill. So let's see. Randall Thomas said, please move Bill and rebuild. Need a vision for the future and competency. Yes, sir. That's what I'm talking about. Competency in the front office. Yeah, shoot. I'll buy Bill dinner, man. Come on, just waive your no trade clause, man. Whatever you take, man. Waive the no trade clause.
Somebody else had a comment here too. Oh, Stuart Flaherty. Now it's a little X-rated with the words that he used. Some profanity, but he says forget a 5-year plan. Instead of saying forget, he says the other word. But he says forget a 5-year plan. They've been on a 5-year plan for 45 years.
Yeah, but come on, man. Like, what was the complaint? What was the last complaint? They don't have a plan. They don't know what they're doing. Now they got a plan, and you're mad that they got a plan. Like, what do you want, man? Like, they got a plan. I mean, I don't get that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
You
we'll
want to
see.
have a plan.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we still don't know what the plan is yet because he's got to submit the 5-year plan in and get it approved by Ted. So I don't. We'll see. I'm intrigued to see what it is. It could be rebuild. It could be going all in with the solid 3. And this is where somebody. This is somebody who actually doesn't want us. He doesn't want the Wizards to rebuild, which he's probably in a minority. There are some people who do want the Wizards to continue with Bradley Beal and try to win games. I guess Chris Miller, who's been on the show before, he's probably one of those people, or he is one of those people. Chris Hutchins says, "I wish people stop talking rebuild. We don't need a rebuild. The issue." We'll probably wrap it up on here. The other comments that are left off, we're gonna. We do have a couple mailbag episodes, but we'll probably continue and look at your comments for the next episode. But Chris Hutchins says, "I wish people stop talking rebuild. We don't need a rebuild. The issue is we need a point guard, floor general. Look at who has won championships, the quarterback, the person that runs the offense." So what are your thoughts on that statement? And we'll wrap it up.
I mean, I agree, but I don't. I mean, I get it, man. You don't need to. I mean, we want a new, fresh start in DC, and it makes sense with a rebuild to kind of bring along and develop a young core. But a retool, I'm not against either. You have pieces here, but you just need to make the right moves. But to keep what we got going on now. So yeah, I don't get the people that think that we're going to keep Kuzma and KP and think that keeping the same people is going to be different results. It's like playing Frogger, man. Like, how many times? I mean, you might get to the other side, but come on, like, what are we doing, man? Like, the same thing. We did the same thing last year, and where we get? We were watching a play-in from the house. So I'm just saying, nah, man. No, I mean, I get retool. I get that, and I actually agree. But rolling with the same cast, good God. I mean, no. There needs to be changes. It needs to be changes. I mean, it does. We need major changes because Bradley Beal's a guy ain't gonna work. I don't care how many years we're gonna try. How many years we're gonna try to eat? I mean, he ain't the guy. He ain't the guy. He's not the guy. So why stop trying to do that, man? It's like trying to drive up a one-way street. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? So I retool, I get, but the notion that we're gonna bring it back with the same cast is lunacy to me. It makes no sense because it didn't work. So why would it work next year? So
yeah, you just won 35 games. You didn't even make the play in. You couldn't even make the play in with the solid 3. So it just doesn't make a lot of sense to run it back. And then the year before, you didn't win with Brad. You didn't make the playoffs again. You won 35 games, back-to-back games with Bradley Beal as the number 1 guy. Even the play-in, even when you did make the play-in with Russell Westbrook, you won 34 games. So just having Brad as the number 1 guy, they just haven't been able to do it. I know it's a new GM, so he may be able to make some more moves and maneuver some things. But even if you do make the playoffs, it's kind of like a dead end. You just don't look better than any of the. You're watching the games right now. Look at the Miami Heat, the way they play basketball, the physicality, and the way that they're coached. The Wizards, they probably get swept or lose 4-1. To be honest with you, even the Bucks, who lost to the Heat, it looks like an uphill battle against them. They probably get swept, a gentleman swept. Even the Celtics. So they just watching the games right now. If you watch the games, they just have a little ways to go. To be honest with you, so Michael Winger, he definitely has his hands full with this job, depending on the direction he takes. But yeah, it just building with Bradley Beal right now. It's just, I'm not gonna say a dead end, but it's just the optimism for them making real noise in the Eastern Conference is very, very slim. It really is. So a lot of people are just ready for a rebuild, just a fresh start, a different direction, building through the draft. Because the one time we were really successful is when we built through the draft and we had top picks and John Wall and Bradley Beal. That's when we hit our peak at that time. So that's why a lot of people want to see a rebuild, because right now we're just not going anywhere. We're just mid. We're not getting a top pick. We keep getting the 9th pick, or the 8th pick, or the 10th pick, or the 11th pick, or whatever, 15th pick, and we're not even getting to the Eastern Conference Finals, and we're not getting top tier talent. We're just getting rotational players year after year after year, doing the same thing. So it's just a treadmill right now. So, but Brandon, did you have anything else that you want to add or say?
No, man, you hit all points, man. You hit all of them. I mean, let me ask this before we go. I'm gonna ask everybody this question. I want you guys to ponder this. When's the look at the last?
I think that Chris, I didn't say about the point guard. Yes, they do need a point guard. We all agree on that. They need a floor general, and there's not a lot of things out there. I mean, Fred VanVleet is a guy that might be available, but once again, how much of the needle is he going to move? And then you're going to draft a guy. It could be Anthony Black or Son Wallace. How much expectations you're really going to put a rookie to catapult us into the playoffs? I mean, let's just be honest here. I like Jalen Hood-Schifano from Indiana as well, but you got to pump the brakes on the rookie. So, like, how much can you really expect from those guys? And Chris Paul, I like him too, but he's 39, 40 years old on the tail end of his career. So there's just not a lot of options for a point guard to come in here and just change the franchise.
Well, I mean, think about it like this, man. Look at the last 5 champions. Which one of those teams built exclusively through free agency and trading? None. Look, I mean, you got to have a young core that you develop. You look at the Bucks; they drafted Giannis, man, when he was weighing like 60 pounds. And you seen Giannis his first year? I'm just saying they developed them, and then when it was time to add those pieces, they did so. Which was the trade for Drew Holiday, bringing in, a really good move in Chris Middleton because he was an unknown in Detroit, relatively. I mean, you have to build through the draft, man. And so whether retool or rebuild, we've got to make changes because we cannot keep doing the same stuff. And we're not going to because you got a fresh perspective in the front office. So, yeah, it's a good move right now, man, but don't get it twisted. We definitely need to make some changes and some moves. So.
Yeah. Oh, and then this is a counter to what we just said. Stewart says half of the teams in the conference finals were playing teams. Yeah. But like I said, Eric Spoelstra's the coach. We don't have Eric Spoelstra. Jimmy Butler is just when he plays in the playoffs, he's a different person. He's just a different person. We don't have LeBron. We don't have AD. Those guys can turn it on. And LeBron, he's about to retire or maybe next year. But you just have a chance with LeBron. You just do. You have a chance. Every year you're gonna have a chance with LeBron. He elevates people. He makes people better. You got AD. We just don't have that caliber players on the roster right now. We just don't. And like I said, the Heat culture, they're just different. They're able to elevate guys. Max Strus, Caleb Martins of the world. They've just been able to do that and get the best of their guys. Maybe Michael Winger can do it. So maybe we can be optimistic in that way. Like I said, if they really want to go in and win, go ahead and do it. I'm for it. Like I said, I wanted them to beat the Hawks. When we played the Hawks last year, two times in a row, we lost. We played the Raptors. We laid an egg, and we lost that game too. So I wanted to, like I said, I was all in. If they wanted to win, sure, go ahead and do it. But if they're going to play like that and be 35-47, I don't want to see that every year. So, I mean, yes, there were some teams in the plan that did make it up, like the Heat and the Lakers. But once again, we just don't have that personnel and we don't have that coaching in this organization at the moment.
Yeah, and I know we're getting a little late here, man. So I'm gonna say this before we roll, man. The new president and the new general manager, they need to be stern and look and just look at the situation and say, look, we need to make moves. Bradley Beal, they need to have that conversation. Like, look, this is what we're trying to do. And if you want a part of it, cool. If not, get them up out of here. Get what you can for them. Get them up out of there. Same thing with Kuz and KP. If you want to roll with us to a rebuild or retool, cool. Welcome to the club. But if not, find a place for them, get value. Young guys, they're going to evaluate the young guys. And look, Jenny's on expiring. So there's a lot of decisions, man. A lot of decisions because, look, we ain't ended yet. It's just started. To get this franchise turned around and to make the moves we need to make, especially just get into the all season, it's going to be a wild ride, man. So definitely stay tuned and put your seatbelt on, man, because it's going to be a wild off season for the Wizards, man. Right. So.
All right, we want to thank you guys for tuning in. Stuart O'Flaherty says, great show. Somebody else says, shout out to you guys for bringing the content and information. I lost that comment because there's a good amount of commenting. Oh, Anthony Smith, he says, and shout out to Ed and Brandon on these updates and possible outlooks on the team. Very much needed. I know there's not a lot of people covering Wizards basketball. ESPN doesn't want to do it. I don't blame them. And other networks. So we're always here talking about the Wiz. Whatever happens, we're going to be here. So make sure you guys tune in, subscribe, and hit the notification bell on YouTube. Also subscribe wherever you guys get a podcast. Hail to the Wizards. Peace.